Hello. If we could have everyone move to their seats, please. Welcome, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. Please move to your seats. All right, thank you all so much for coming today. We have a robust program, so I'm going to ask everyone to please take their seats, and we will go ahead and get started. My name is Margaret Cry. I am the president-elect of Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee, and we are thrilled to share that recently our membership has grown to 422 women. As we grow, so does our impact to the community, which with each member playing a truly unique role. Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee is an all-volunteer organization. So as you look around you and you see flowers on the table and name tags, and this event was planned, and every little thing that goes on and goes into it was all done by volunteers, which is super impressive, and we're very grateful for everyone and all the work that they put into the organization. We have directors, committee chairs, and lots of helpers who pitch in as needs arise. You should have received some communication by email about either nominating or volunteering, and those two things are really one and the same. And I want to encourage everyone to respond to those. On your tables, you will see a volunteer interest card, and there are various positions we're looking to fill. At the director level, the nominating committee is hoping to speak with women who are interested in volunteering in the grant director position. At the the chair level, the committee wants to speak with anyone who's interested in volunteering in programming and membership. And if you have any expertise in data management, the nominating committee would love to speak with you. So again, fill out those volunteer cards on every table, find anyone in leadership, or you can find Kathy Schluter, who is here today wearing red. Kathy, if you want to give a wave. Yes, everyone find Kathy and talk to her if you have questions. She would be happy to give you any more information. Volunteering is really a great way to give back to Impact 100 and your community, and the more you put into this organization, the more that you get out of it. I really can't say enough about engaging deeper in the organization and how wonderful it is. So with that, I will turn it over to our chief volunteer, President Carla Cummings.
Thank you, Margaret. I would say, to add to that, you get to meet some of the most amazing volunteers ever, like Margaret and so many other people that are in this room. So good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor to welcome you to our annual Beyond the Headlines Luncheon, a program designed to provide insight into the challenges our community and nonprofit partners face. As members of Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee, we believe that knowledge is key to making informed and impactful grant decisions. That is why we founded Beyond the Headlines in 2018, to give our members and the community access to the information that matters most. After you leave today, be sure to check out our website and YouTube channel. Go up there, yep. For additional information and recordings of our past educational programming. Today's program focuses on collaborative approaches to youth safety and violence prevention, an issue of great importance in our community. Through collaboration, innovative solutions, and sustained engagement, our panelists are working together to create a safer future for our youth and Milwaukee. Before we begin our program, I want to take a moment to acknowledge Joyce Garbasiak, whose dedication to journalism and community storytelling has inspired today's program. Joyce has been a renowned broadcast journalist for decades and a WISN 12 anchor for 18 years. You were in my kitchen for 18 years, Joyce. Joyce, your commitment to shining a light on important issues has helped shape the conversations we are having today. We are also privileged to have with us Judge Nidhi Kashyap, who I am proud to say is also an Impact 100 member. I want to highlight that one of today's esteemed panelists, co-executive director of Running Rebels, Dawn Barnett, who was also a 2017 $100,000 grant recipient, which demonstrates the significant impact our collective giving can have on the organizations we support. Beyond the Headlines was started as a method to inform our members about the challenges faced by the nonprofit organizations we support, such as Running Rebels. Renee Mannion, our communications co-director and former outreach chair, was on the initial committee that started Beyond the Headlines. Renee suggested today's topic to our Beyond the Headlines chair, Suzanne McCoy, after seeing Joyce Garbasiak's report, and after months of planning, we are here to discuss this important issue. Please welcome to the podium Suzanne McCoy, who will introduce you to today's panelists. Suzanne.
Thank you so much, Carla. And as our panelists and moderator take a seat, I will note that there is a notepad and pens on each of your table. Those are for your questions. We will pass those up towards the end of the program, and our moderator will read them and encourage further conversation. It is truly my privilege to introduce today's panelist and moderator. Leading the discussion is the Honorable Nidhi Kashyap, who has served as a judge for Branch 25 of the Milwaukee County Circuit Court since 2022. She's well-versed in today's topic, having previously served as a family court commissioner, where she presided over hearings in paternity cases, restraining orders, injunctions, and family law matters. Earlier in her career, Nidhi served as legal counsel at Milwaukee County Child Support Services, where she helped develop policies to improve access to services in the 53206 zip code. She's also worked as a staff attorney for Nonprofit Legal Services of Southeastern Wisconsin and as a legal coordinator for Friends of Abused Families, a domestic violence agency in West Bend. Nidhi earned both her undergraduate and law degrees at UW-Madison. Joining her as panelists, Travis Landry, Regional Vice President for WestCare Wisconsin. Travis began working for WestCare in 2010 with the late Reverend Dr. James White, a former Milwaukee County supervisor. Together, they spent 2 years operating under the legacy of the Harambe Ombudsman Project until 2012, when they officially became WestCare Wisconsin. In 2018, Travis became the regional vice president, overseeing all operations. Kelly Pethke is Administrator of Child, Youth, and Family Services with the Milwaukee County Department of Health and Human Services, where she supports community violence intervention initiatives, including the Credible Messengers and Advanced Peace initiatives. Early in her career, she served as a grants coordinator at DHHS's Delinquency and Court Services Division and as a training supervisor at the Bureau of Milwaukee Child Welfare. And Dawn Barnett is the co-executive director of Running Rebels Community Organization. She joined the organization 27 years ago to serve as a community organizer. Since then, under the leadership of Dawn and Victor Barnett, the organization has gone from a mentorship program on an outdoor basketball court to an organization serving more than 1,000 youth a year, ages 12 to 19, with a range of programs in 2 locations on Capitol Drive and Fond du Lac Avenue. We're honored to have such distinguished experts with us today. Please join me in welcoming our panel.
Thank you so much, everybody, for the warm welcome and good afternoon. I want to particularly thank Suzanne and Carla for welcoming us here today. Suzanne, you were great to work with, and I think I can speak for all of us when I say you have 4 new fans. To everyone who took time to be here with us this afternoon, thank you so much for the work you do with impact and for choosing to spend time here today. Being in a room with this group of caring and motivated women is such an honor. And it's an even bigger honor to share the stage with Kelly, Travis, and Dawn, who do the important work of building safer and stronger communities for all of us and for our kids. The people you see here today do high-stakes work. In Wisconsin, children can be held responsible for criminal acts as early as age 10. If any of you have been a parent or a caretaker to a 10-year-old, I want you to take a moment to think about what it took to guide your own 10-year-old through the world. Did you rely on grandparents when you needed a break? Did you see a doctor when your child wasn't feeling well? Did you depend on a school bus driver to keep your child safe on the roads? Did your faith community help you shape your child's worldview? For most of you, the answer to most of those questions is yes. Caring for kids is not a solo act. To set the stage for today's discussion and to illustrate why collaboration is so important when we think about youth safety and violence prevention, let me take you through a typical day at the Vel R. Phillips Juvenile Justice Center. We're lucky enough to be across the street from our beautiful courthouse. The Vel R. Phillips Juvenile Justice Center is located in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, right in our backyard. This morning, we had 6 kids brought in to the Vel R. Phillips for new charges, and some were held in the detention center. These kids face charges including being a passenger in a stolen vehicle, making violent threats, armed robbery, and recklessly endangering safety. Each of these kids was brought into the Vel R. Phillips Detention Center at some point during the last 24 hours. Each child met with an intake worker. Later today, each of these kids will have a hearing in front of a court commissioner who will determine whether they must be held in custody, released to a parent or to a relative, or placed at a temporary shelter. Before that hearing, the child will meet with their own attorney, and at the hearing, there will be a district attorney representing the state. The child will then be assigned a human service worker who is responsible for making recommendations to the judge about what services the child needs and whether the child should be able to stay home as their case proceeds or whether they should be held in secure detention or in an out-of-home placement, like the home of a relative, a group home, or a treatment facility. A week or two later, the child will meet me or one of my colleagues for the first time. As judges, we rely on information from the attorneys, from the intake worker, from the child's family, from the human service worker, and from other service providers. Keeping the community safe and making sure that each child is in a safe place is truly a collaborative effort. Caring for kids is not a solo act. On this stage, you see people who work with justice-involved youth who are going through the process I just described. But they also work with youth who are at risk of perpetrating or experiencing violence. And in doing that work, they take a collaborative approach. To illustrate how important this is, I'm going to take a moment to share some sobering information. In the city of Milwaukee last year, we had 640 non-fatal shootings. Of course, not all of these involved youth, but many did, both as perpetrators and as victims. As of yesterday, we had 107 young people in our secure juvenile detention center in Milwaukee County, and 16 Milwaukee County youth being held at a Department of Corrections facility up north in Lincoln County, the Lincoln Hills School. Overall, violent crime numbers are trending down, but they remain unacceptably high. Therefore, it is more important than ever for our community organizations to come together to prevent and to respond to violence. Caring for our kids is not a solo act. The Credible Messengers program is an example of what happens when a community comes together to care for kids. In 2021, 5 organizations, including WestCare and Running Rebels, came together under the leadership of Milwaukee County Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services to respond to youth who are at a high risk of becoming involved in violence. So what is a credible messenger? A credible messenger is a mentor who shares lived experience with the youth they serve. These mentors know how to build rapport with the children they serve because they are rooted in the same communities, and some have been through the justice system themselves. Today, we have an opportunity to learn more about the Credible Messengers program and ask questions about violence prevention and how collaboration can help our community care for all its children. So get your questions ready, and remember, caring for kids is not a solo act. So I'm going to turn things over to you, Travis. I think you have a video to share and a brief introduction.
Got it done? Pass me back, baby. There you go, sweetheart. All right. Stay safe now. Have a nice day.
WestCare Wisconsin is affiliated of WestCare Foundation. We located in 17 states and 5 trust territories. So we're one of the largest healthcare facilities in the country. WestCare have the food pantry that we provide every Wednesday. We provide prevention services. Botman Life Skills Prevention was an evidence-based curriculum. We provide clinical services, which gives youth and families an opportunity to have a better quality of life. Our goal is to uplift the human spirit, and without community, you won't have a neighborhood that's thriving. You need people in a community to work together. Whether it be on the block, whether it be 2 blocks, you need everybody to come together to make a better community for all. Because if one person have it, we all should have it. Credible Messaging is a prevention program. We do work with justice-involved youth, but at the end of the day, it's prevention. We have to hear our youth voices and ask them what they want. Because of COVID, 2020 made us go into the house. We have to hear what our kids want so we can have a better future. So we have to make sure that we put the children in place to help design neighborhoods and communities because they're the next generation.
Kids tell me all the time that the Credible Messaging Program, they're glad they're in it. They're glad that they're a part of it. They're glad that they're here because it allows them to be themselves and it allows them to have opportunities in the community. For a program to leave an impact on a kid is more important because those are the people that we're trying to reach. Some of them probably won't agree and you're not going to get every kid, but the kids that we do get, the kids that we can touch, it leaves an impact on them.
Have to bring these cultures together, and the main philosophy for Credible Messengers is to teach the person you're mentoring is to just keep living. If you keep living, you'll see what we're talking about, and you'll see how life really gives you a better quality because now you developed. Your brain is developed and you start to understand, and things that you didn't understand when you were 21, 22, when you get to be 30, 40, 50, you would understand. So we try to teach them to prepare and set their goals for the future because at 18, 21, you can set yourself up to retire at 50 if you live to be 50. But you have to set that goal to be 50. And most of them not setting a goal to be 50. They setting a goal around 25, 26 because they just don't believe. And we restore that hope and faith. We're here to collaborate and partner with anyone who wants to make a difference in our city. It's not about WestCare, it's about us collectively coming together, making an impact in our city to stop the violence. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about the work that we do in our community. It's important. Most of our youth don't live to see past 18. After high school, they don't see it. You know, it's a sad reality of what we deal with on a consistent basis. And I'm here to just really give you the truth, to tell you the facts, to let you know what our kids are thinking about. I got really involved in this work maybe 6 years ago, but I really got involved in 2020 because in 2020 I got shot. And when I got shot, it was some kids trying to carjack me. And they didn't know what they were doing. They had no clue. Now, if I would have had to have this conversation back in 2020, I'd probably be just like the kids are that we work with. But I had to realize because of the hope and faith that they didn't have, they just wasn't prepared to come into the community and understand what they did. So I got treated horrible when I went to the hospital. They didn't know what they were doing. I got treated horrible by the staff. It was only in time until a sergeant walked into the room and she said, "That's Travis Landry, he's the vice president of WestCare," when they started treating me better. And I realized that something's wrong with this whole system. So now that I started getting treated better, I got better care, I got better service. They gave me everything that I asked for. The media came in, they had an interview, they did all these wonderful things. But what happened when they knew I wasn't, when they thought I wasn't nobody? We have to deal with our trauma and our mental health issues on a day-to-day basis, and we don't have the resources to get out of our neighborhoods and out of our communities to make a better life for ourselves. So that's what our organizations are here for, to help us. We have to walk past our PTSD, our trauma, on a daily basis. And we can't do nothing about it because our economics just don't allow us to get out of the neighborhood. That's why I really got dug deep into this work to make sure that we give kids an opportunity. And I'm talking about like financial opportunities, but when you start going down to the basic needs of just eating, you know, they just don't have food to eat. So we got to provide food for them to eat at the food pantry. I remember I was barbecuing one day at our food pantry, and a lady walked up to me and she said, "Well, why do you cook for the residents?" And I make burgers and brats for everybody. And I had to explain to her that I'm blessed to have 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. And there's some kids that don't even have a refrigerator and or a stove or a microwave to put food in, so they have to eat cold food all day long. And I was explaining to her this concept of how, showing her how people was taking their refrigerated items out of their boxes and a frozen item out of their box. 3 weeks later, she sent me a check in the mail and asked me to buy refrigerators and stoves for everybody in the community that didn't have a refrigerator and stove. And that was because she saw the impact of the work that we do and how important it is that people just need a place to put their food. So thankful for Ms. Kelly and Milwaukee County for the opportunity that it gave the 5 organizations to have credible messengers. Because without a mentor, you have to come into the community and understand it. A lot of people always ask me, well, you're the vice president of a national organization. Why you dress the way you dress? Because I always represent my credible messenger gear, my WestCare gear, my hoodies, because that's what our kids are. That's what they represent. And if I go in there in my community with a suit and tie on, they're not going to respect me. So I have to meet them where they are so that I could get the respect and then be able to mentor them as we move on.
I'm now going to turn it over to Kelly. I know you want to introduce yourself, and then you've got a PowerPoint prepared.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Judge, and thank you to Travis and Dawn, too, for being here and this opportunity to speak about the work that they're all doing and how we are supporting them. I'm Kelly Pethke. I'm the administrator for the Children, Youth, and Family Services within the Department of Health and Human Services. And I do have a PowerPoint because everywhere I go, I have a PowerPoint. So just high level, I just want to make sure everyone's aware of who we are. Department of Health and Human Services has the service areas on the left-hand side. I won't read them to you, but the point of that is showing that is that we serve the whole individual and the whole family. It's not just about CYFS, but what do we do across all of DHHS. And also, everything we do is grounded in our mission, vision, and values. So I always start every presentation or any opportunity to share what our mission, vision, and values are, because everything we do, including the credible messengers and other community violence intervention work, is all grounded in that. So I'm going to talk a little bit, just high level, around our community violence intervention efforts. Here within DHHS, that includes our credible messengers, which we are focusing on here today. But we also have the Advanced Peace Fellowship, which is a gun violence targeted intervention, as well as our housing navigation. We have an individual within DHHS who helps individuals impacted by violence and get short-term and long-term housing, and helping to navigate just all the systems that individuals that we work with have to experience. If you've ever been involved in any of the government system, it is very difficult to know where to go, what to do, even the paperwork, all that. So we have individuals who help those that we serve navigate all the different systems that they're involved in. Okay, the little bit more about the Credible Messenger program. You heard Judge and Travis both talk a little bit about it, but I just want to talk about what we've done here in Milwaukee. So we've been talking about credible messengers here in Milwaukee County for many, many years prior to the pilot in 2021. We had to do a lot of advocating to bring this program to Milwaukee, because it is thinking about working with young people in a different way. We had to remove a lot of barriers and red tape to allow credible messengers and the agencies to have a contract with Milwaukee County. This is a long time coming, and it was very exciting. We did have a pilot in 2021. At that point, we brought in a national trainer, and we had invited the community who is interested in being trained and learning more about credible messengers and the work that they're doing. So we had 11 different community-based agencies that came to the training, and from there we selected 5 who were truly committed to this work, and 5 agencies who were already doing this work. They just weren't getting paid, or they weren't being called credible messengers. And so from there, really moved into, sorry, I can't see what I'm looking at here. So really from there, it's all about the national model, right? So we train to what is the national model. Every credible messenger is trained and certified in the PCITI, and I'm not going to even attempt what those words are. But it is a national-based certification. So you cannot be a credible messenger without being trained and certified in that. And really, the Credible Messengers really is about a transformative process, right? So it's individuals who work in the communities that our children and kids and families live in. They work there, they live there, they know who these individuals are, they're well known. They may not be doing it in a paid position where they are now. So it's really that transformative mentoring and showing up for our kids and families in a different way. It also creates a positive platform, right? So it provides young people with opportunities that they may not have had before. So it exposes them to different career opportunities, different opportunities in their own communities. Some of these kids have never even been able, been left their neighborhoods or their areas or been down to the lake or, just exposing them to there's so much more than what you see every day. And that's important. And then it also allows children to become change agents. So it's really thinking about what impacts our children and our families and how we can make change. And the Credible Messengers help lead that change and help see that the kids, there's so much more to this world. And thinking about here at CYFS, we talk about what is your ideal self, right? Like, what do you see for your future? What are your short-term, long-term goals, and how we can help you get there? So seeing, beyond the age of 21, 25, but where do they see a future for themselves? It also, Credible Messengers has also allowed a crisis response. So one thing that is so unique about Credible Messengers is one of the first times where agencies came together in a meaningful and very intentional way. It wasn't just every agency out for themselves trying to get the contracts or trying to get the money, but it's really coming together and addressing some of those root causes of what leads kids to a youth justice system or the adult system. And so Credible Messengers often respond to crisis events in the community. They are at every community event. You'll see them if you go anywhere in Milwaukee, especially, summer's coming up. There's a lot of different opportunities, and they're just out there meeting people, spreading the word. So I will move on. So going back a little bit to the pilot, I talked a little bit about the pilot. From there, we were able to expand the work of Credible Messengers. So in 2022, we continued the work, and then in 2023, ARPA came, or American Rescue, the funding from the federal government. And so that allowed us to expand even more. So now we have our original 5 agencies, which includes Running Rebels and WestCare, but then we're able to add another agency who works with girls only. So one thing about girls or youth in the justice system, a lot of their services and programs are focused on boys. So this was an intentional effort to provide a Credible Messenger for girls and their unique needs. And then we also were able to add a community crisis response team through the Youth Advocate Program. And so what we're really focused on last year and moving into this year is continuing to build capacity around training. So building a Train the Trainer program, and then building out our data and reporting capacity. As with most programs, we have to be able to show the impact. And Credible Messengers, it's hard to show an impact of what you prevented, because a lot of Credible Messengers, just the work in general, is preventative. You're preventing situations or behaviors or incidents from happening. You're engaging youth in a different way, and it's hard. We had to come up with a way to how do we show that impact, because we do have to report out to all of our funders as well. So that's really been our focus this year. And then I do just want to share some highlights of the Credible Messenger work. So when we talk about data and reporting, we did do a 2023 impact study, and this is just some of the very high level data from that impact study. So one thing with Credible Messengers, there are 2 referral paths, right? They could, a kid could get a referral to Credible Messengers through the youth justice system. If they're already justice involved, already maybe have a court order or have court involvement, their human service worker, which is like a probation officer, can make a referral for them. But also, the kids can get referred through community-based referrals. So these referrals initially were coming from law enforcement. But now as we've opened that up to anyone can refer a child to a Credible Messenger. And this is done through a QR code. And And so you don't have to have justice involved, but if you know, there's a lot of kids who may be on that path or maybe having behaviors that are going to lead to justice involvement. So how do we impact that and address that before they even get involved in the system? So that's what you'll see on here as far as who was served. So in 2023, there was over 2,000 hours of direct face-to-face work completed or engaged with the kids and our credible messengers. So of the over 2,000 hours, that includes 130 young people. So of the 130, 54 of those young people were referred through community, and then 76 were referred through Children, Youth, and Family Services. Of the 130 total youth served in 2023, 66% received the recommended 26 weeks. So that's what we call the dosage, and per research, research shows that in order to make an impact for mentoring, the minimum amount of weeks required is 26 weeks. So kids that get 26 or more weeks of that direct face-to-face mentoring, that will have a bigger positive impact on their life than those who get less than the 26 weeks. Of the 130 youth total served, 78% had no new referral or no referral at all to the justice system. And this is huge because one of the goals is to prevent justice system involvement. And then 2 had reported injuries. So that means 128 had no reported injuries, because that's another thing we track. Are kids getting harmed? Are they still engaging in behaviors that will harm them or harm others? And I do have a link on here. I don't have time to show, but we do have an impact awareness video. But maybe I can share it after this as part of the PowerPoint so you can see. There's been a lot of coverage about the credible messengers, a lot of great coverage. So we're continuing to get the word out there. And then just real quick, the advanced piece, I'm not going to go through all of this, but I do just want to highlight this is another new initiative within the Department of Health and Human Services connected to our community violence intervention work. And this is advanced piece really, I think the main takeaway is it's very intensive, targeting those in Milwaukee who are driving gun violence. So that's who this program is serving. It's 14 to 24-year-olds, could be male or female, but who is really involved in the day-to-day violence using guns. They may be victims as well. So it's a very intensive program where our community-based partner works with them on the 7 touch points. And you see the 7 touch points up here. But it's a very intensive 18-month program where going back to dosage is they meet with these individuals every day, several times a day, face-to-face, calling, texting, whatever that looks like. It's really to keep these individuals engaged and on a different path than what they're currently on. Okay, and with that, I'll hand it over to Ms. Barnett.
Good afternoon. I believe we have a video that we're going to start with.
Mario Drain, Intensive Monitoring Program Youth Advocate. I got started with the Rebels back in 2006. I was court ordered, meaning that I was convicted of 2 counts of armed robbery and 1 count of operating a vehicle without owner's consent.
There are success stories like teenager Mario Drain. 2 years ago, he was charged with armed robbery and facing hard time. Now, he's going to college.
And that's a very big accomplishment for me because I really didn't think that I would make it this far. I thought that it was my obligation to help provide for my family, financially, so I kind of put myself in bad situations to try to earn money the fast way. And it obviously backfired on me. It didn't really work out the way I thought it would. But eventually, I ended up at the Running Rebels in their program. Running Rebels, you know, they stepped in and just said, you know what, everybody make mistakes, you know, so here's your second chance. And basically we have different group discussions and group sessions, whether that's different activities or just, you know, sitting around and talking, where we try to provoke thought within our youth and try to get them to think about situations differently than they normally would. And I feel what it does for the kids is it allows them to think critically and think more in depth on certain situations that they're faced with pretty much on a daily basis. Honestly, I think our approach is unique, and what makes us, you know, the rebel way, so to speak, is it's all geared towards our youth that we serve. A lot of our youth, they love to play basketball. They love sports in general. So, I mean, the Rebels, they offer different sports programs. You know, just them actually sitting down and making a conscious effort to do their work while they're in school. To me, that's progress. What I really got from growing up over here is just that it's more to life than this. Like this block is just not, it doesn't define me, it doesn't hold me back. It's actually a motivator to get out of here and experience better and new things and provide everything that I didn't have for my own family now.
So that was Mr. Mario Drain. A little bit about Mario. He has grown up to be one of the most engaged and present fathers of anybody I've ever seen, even though he himself didn't have that. And this work that we're doing, that's the goal, is to have young people come back to learn from their mistakes. I agree, Travis. It's not about where they are when they're in front of us at 14, 15, 16. Who we're really talking to is that 25, 26, 27-year-old version of them to be in planting those seeds to hopefully grow. We began our work with Milwaukee County in 1998. That was our first program. So that's now we're in our 28th year in partnership. Impact 100 is about partnership. It's about collective impact, working together towards a common goal. That's partnership. Back then, it wasn't always felt like a partnership in the community. It was very competitive amongst organizations. Sometimes we were pit against each other to compete for a very little amount of money. So when this shift started happening and people said, wow, we need to start working together. They couldn't understand why there was resistance to that, why there was mistrust. It was because of years and years of this competitive nature. We're still dealing with it now, where working together, well, how many of us know working together is not easy? Partnership is not easy. But it's necessary, and it's definitely important to do the work. So I can say to you now, and it's not because she's sitting next to me, but I feel like we are in partnership with Milwaukee County. I felt like that in the very beginning in 1998. I did not feel like that for some years in between. And that is because there's an understanding that has come about the work, about the youth, about the science behind change. Change is not going to happen in a 12-month program. Change happens over years and years of different factors, years and years of skill building, years and years of brain development to get to the point where people are able to make different decisions. So the fact that now Milwaukee County, who is a system they actually acknowledge that and know that, hey, there's no one organization that can do this in a matter of 12 months. And let's get behind them and let's work together towards making sure that we are able to create these changes. So I'm very pleased that when we're talking about partnership amongst organizations, it's also partnership amongst systems and the partners that they fund. And making sure that we're very careful with that power balance, because there's power with the people who are paying for it to be done. But if you want it to be done right, you have to approach it as a true partnership, and I thank you for that, Kelly. And to have Travis here, this is the first program that I've been a part of with Milwaukee County that we are really working together for the betterment of our entire community, and that collective impact is what I'm most excited about and very, very honored to be a part of. So thank you.
Thank you. I really, really, really loved seeing those videos and that PowerPoint. I have a ton of questions. I'm sure you all do as well. Of course. So I have a ton of questions. I'm sure you all do too. So please fill out your cards and they'll be collected and brought up. But I'm going to start by asking just a few questions that I thought of. Kelly, one of the things you talked about was facing some unique challenges when working with girls. And there's one organization that CYFS partners with that's girl-focused. Can you say a little bit more about what the particular challenges are in working with girls and how that organization responds?
I think in general, boys and girls are different. Their experiences are different. How they're raised are different. And I mean, they have a lot. There are shared commonalities and shared experiences, but I think it's important to recognize individualized needs and individualized in people, that everyone comes to the table with something different. And when you're looking at a young girl who, you think about the trauma, just in general, that young people that we work with have experienced, and then the youth justice system typically responds and is geared towards boys. And what do boys in the justice system need? And looking at what research shows, what is best for boys, that's how the system has typically responded. So we're very intentional in the last couple of years using some of our ARPA funding as well to create opportunities to bring in new community-based providers to serve strictly girls. So we have providers who serve girls in our detention center as well as in the community. And our provider for Credible Messengers is Glow 414. They were an organization that was already solely focused on working with girls. They were already doing a lot of this work. So it was important that we brought them into the Credible Messenger team so that they now are part of the collective and addressing the community violence intervention needs and just needs of girls in general with everyone else. So I think it's just important to recognize that there are different needs of the kids that we're working with, and being able to have an ecosystem or a continuum that is able to meet all kids' needs.
Yeah, and one of the challenges I would say that we face in the courts with girls is there are fewer places. It's not safe for some of our kids to be at home. That's just a reality that we all face. And in terms of placement options, in general, I would say we have less for girls. Do you agree? It's
Yes.
harder, they tend to be harder
Yeah.
to place.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have, so out-of-home placements, if you look at that, there's, those are operated or licensed through the department, the state of Wisconsin. There's a lot of placement beds in the state of Wisconsin, not a lot that want to work with our children from Milwaukee. And that is one of our constant challenges. And when you talk about girls, I believe we only have one, which residential treatment program for girls only. So it has been a constant struggle, and it's a struggle across the nation. It's not just something unique to Milwaukee. And also thinking about girls typically don't do well in a large group setting. You don't want to, like a bunch of girls in a residential center. They typically do better in small group settings, which is very expensive. So when we reach out to some of our providers now, our partners who operate RTCs, what do you need to be able to operate a girls program? It's the resources are just not there to support that right now.
The result of that is sometimes girls staying in the detention center, I think, for longer than they should. We're able to find places that are non-secure but are still safe. They enhance community safety and they're safe for our boys. We have a harder time finding that for girls, so that's a unique challenge that we see in the courts.
And one other thing too with girls, girls that we work with have higher rates of trafficking, have different higher levels. Their trauma looks a little bit different, but also the charges they come in on look a little bit different than the boys. And so we have more girls who stay longer times in detention because we're trying to find somewhere safe for them and for the community to go that will able to meet their needs, treatment needs around their mental health and their trauma. And so that's really one of the challenges.
Yeah. Thank you. Does anyone want to add to that? Go ahead.
And I believe also the runaway issue
Yes.
is huge. We have parents calling us all the time asking, can you help me? Can you help me? Because we cannot keep our daughter at home. It's a big problem.
And some of that is related to trafficking. The way the youth perceives it is, I'm going somewhere where I want to be. From an adult perspective, that is not the case. But we're working on it. There is always hope, and these organizations are doing a great job with our girls. One of the things that Travis said that really stood out to me in the video was, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I think you said, we are here to collaborate with anybody who wants to stop violence. And when we think about kids, they spend, or should spend, most of their day at school. And so a lot of the kids, in my experience, who come in to the Val Phillips Juvenile Justice Center go to the Milwaukee Public School District. That's their home school district. So are any of your organizations collaborating with MPS? Have you collaborated with MPS, and how did that go? I know Running Rebels has.
Yes, absolutely. We began our formal collaboration with Milwaukee Public Schools in 2005. It started off as a program called the School Safety Improvement Program. Terrible name. Terrible name. But the idea behind that was taking our mentors and placing them into the schools and to help out with mediations, to help just young people be successful during the school day, overcoming any challenges that they have. That then grew into the violence-free zone, in which ultimately we wound up in 7 schools, having full-time mentors in those schools. I don't know if any of you remember what it was like to be in school. I do, and it wasn't very fun then. For me, today, with the settings, I don't know how young people sometimes could be successful. You talked about young ladies not doing well when there's big groups of them. Smaller groups is better. Just imagine a whole school of young people who aren't very nice. Do you remember that about young people? Teens, they're not very nice. What our young people face in regards to bullying, in regards to just judgment, you put all that on top of the trauma that they already have. Our schools, our job was to try to work with MPS to make the schools safe. And it was and continues to be a challenge. And what will help that challenge is making sure that all the partners, because there's many partners that are really dedicated to this work, that they come together, and that hopefully MPS will facilitate that process of coordinating these partners so that that effort can be more impactful.
Yeah, and MPS is just like any government agency, it's a bureaucracy. And I think that CYFS has cut a lot of that red tape and brought these organizations together. I don't think I would be remiss in saying that the red tape is a challenge when we're working with our schools.
Yeah, yes, it's definitely a challenge, right? I mean, I think anytime you have a government or a system, MPS is huge. And I think from our experiences, it depends on the schools that the kids go to. Things are operated very differently. We do have partnerships with MPS. We try to engage them at every opportunity. And so it is definitely a challenge that we continue to work through. I do just want to say one thing, highlight one area too. We also partner very closely with the Wauwatosa School District. They provide all of our education to our kids in detention. So they help kind of bridge that gap with MPS as well.
So you see, we all nervous about talking about MPS.
Yeah.
The system, it's a system, and we got to break the system. We're working on it collectively together. We do some partnerships inside of MPS. We're a community school partner where we help bridge the gap between staff, parents, scholars into the community. So we do that, and we do evidence-based curriculum called BOTV Life Skills, which is a substance abuse prevention inside of MPS. So we all do work inside of MPS, but that system, we gotta still figure out this system on how we can make it work better.
And we're grateful for that work as the judges. When a child goes through the system, when you think of an adult in the criminal justice system, you think of a sentence. They get a sentence, they may serve some time on probation, they may serve some time incarcerated. That is not how we deal with kids who are delinquent. They're on a dispositional order. You can't tell them, go out and get a job and meet with your probation agent every month. That's not how it works. So they're placed somewhere. We think about a sentence in terms of placement and conditions. The placement could be the secure detention center, but it's often not. It's often home. It's often a residential treatment center, a group home, that kind of thing. And one of their conditions of custody is usually attend school every day. We want the children to be in school every day. The problem we have is that we are sometimes sending them to a school where they are with the same kids kids get in trouble in groups. You do not usually find kids who went out and got in trouble by themselves. They get in trouble with groups, and we send them back to a school where some of their peers that collaborated with them to get in trouble are at. And so to have these organizations in the school enhances safety tremendously for our community. Travis, I wanted to ask you, your organization provides more than credible messengers. It's a food pantry, it's clinical services, it's being out in the community. And I think one of the things you do is work with youth who struggle with mental health or substance use. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about the connection between mental health, substance use, and violence prevention that you've seen in your work?
Well, I told you I got shot in 2020. During that time, when you're going through your own crisis, people don't want to talk to you no more. Your friends just leave you. They're not interested because they always think you got your hand out wanting something. So I lost a lot of friends after 2020. And I didn't need to put my hand out. I'm well off financially. I have a family who supports me. But think of the families that don't, a youth or a person or a victim just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And they don't have all the luxuries or the blessings that we have. And they still have to go into a house with no hot water, a house that the porch is falling down, their family's a hoarder. So when you start talking about the mental health that come behind this, I had a drug-free community at the time in 2020, and I had a doctor on my drug-free community who was a psychotherapist. And I lost all my friends, so I didn't have nobody to talk to, and I'm getting put on opioids every day, and the opioids is driving me crazy, and I'm ready to jump off the balcony at home, and I can't really talk to my kids because they don't understand what I'm going through, and I'm still a man in the house. So I got to figure all this out on opioids and a bullet hole in my arm, right? My mental health is going crazy. My girlfriend is looking at me like, you okay? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm okay, because you know how to mask myself now. I'm okay. I'm on opioids. I'm okay. I'm at the hospital every day getting another opioid because the opioid that was working that day almost had me jump off the balcony. The opioid that put me on the other day had me sleeping all day. So I'm just baffled and confused and don't know what to do. Luckily, I'm gonna give you the success behind that. Luckily, I have a cousin who's a professional basketball player, and his wife made oils, so she just came and rubbed my arm with oils, and I didn't have to take any more opioids, so that was the good thing. But the mental health that came behind all of this, I have the kids that's looking at me saying, Dad, you okay? My daughter especially, because she's a daddy's girl, and I gotta fake it till I make it. In 2022, after realizing I just can't fake it till I make it no more, I had to open up a clinical service. And because I had the backing of the foundation, I had to hire 6 clinicians to come in and help, because I know if I'm going through it and I'm supposed to be blessed and have a quality of life, I just can't imagine how someone who don't have what I have is dealing with and have to walk past their trauma and mental health and PTSD and still deal with their family and still got to go to work and still can't go to rehab because they got to go to work because they got to make some money and don't have the insurance. And, you know, if you have horrible insurance, you're not getting the better care. I think one surgery alone cost me almost $375,000. And then after that, I was in a hospital for a year because the bullet, they couldn't take the bullet out my arm, and they had a metal rod, and I caught an infection from all of the metal in my arm, so they had to wait to clean it up. So then unfortunately, I got into a car accident, so I tore my rotator cuff. So I had to wait for that amount of time to clean all that up, and then they had to go fix. So it's a lot of mental health in here, right? But I could talk about it and share it now because I understand that everything that we do, I have to send everybody to clinical services and change the word mental health to just let me know what I'm working with. Because mental health in our culture really means that you're crazy and no one wants to talk about it, because whatever happens in your culture with mental health stays in your home. It don't come out of your home, and you just deal with it and you mask it and you just do the best you can and don't talk about it. So now every time someone comes to our office or come to the food pantry, I make sure that I provide some type of service to give them an assessment so we can talk about substance abuse, or we can talk about PTSD or trauma or mental health or whatever word that's not a trigger for you, to get you the support that you need. And I do it by sharing my story, let them know that I'm telling y'all I'm crazy. I'm not ashamed to say it. That's why I have to go talk to somebody to get it out of my head so that I can be well. And if I don't talk about it, I got triggers that happen. And when a trigger, and everybody got them, but when these triggers happen, you react towards the trigger. I know now I don't react to any triggers.
That, to me, I think really illustrates why it's important to have credible messengers who are rooted in the community. Because 10 years ago, if I was sitting next to you and you told that story, I would have said, wow, that is a unique experience. What I know now, I get a report before I make a dispositional order for a child. And the human service worker from Children, Youth, and Family Services gets a history, talks to the family, talks to the child. And I think, Kelly, tell me if I'm exaggerating. I think in every single report I get for a child who's there on a serious crime, it says the child witnessed their brother get shot. They witnessed someone in their neighborhood get shot. They witnessed a parent get shot. And so the amount of, I would have said, wow, Travis, that's a crazy story 10 years ago. Now I know that for the youth that we serve, it's not that crazy of a story. I want to hear from you all. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that.
No, I mean, I think about the trauma our kids experience. It is how many people do they know that's been shot or hurt or involved, but it's also like going back to their childhood. Like if you look, we do an assessment on every kid, and we do screen for trauma in there, and we use the ACEs, and their trauma levels are off the charts.
The ACEs is the Adverse Childhood Experience Scale.
Yep. And no matter what age. And then, you think about the kids who are in our detention center, there's over 60% who have an unmet mental health or disability. And when I say unmet, it's they haven't gotten treatment or help to support them in that. And a lot of this leads to them engaging in behaviors that will lead them to the youth justice system. So, I mean, absolutely, you can't, it is amazing when you talk to some of these kids and their experiences and how young they are.
Now, let's give everybody some good news. They walk into WestCare and they can see Travis and they can get referred to resources. If they walk into my courtroom, they have a human service worker from Children, Youth, and Family Services who can refer them, and I can make that part of the court order, go to individual therapy. And Children, Youth, and Family Services, when they're on an order, provides the referral and provides the payment, correct? And so that is nobody wants their child to be just as involved. But because we are in the children's court system and not the adult system, it can provide help, services, and then very importantly, payment for those services.
I was just going to add one thing too. I think what both Dawn and Travis do, and everyone that does well is, the youth justice system is always focused on the kid and what the kid did, but it's the whole family and the whole community. So historically, we would worry about what the kid would be on a court order, the kid has to do this, this, and this. But really, we need to focus on what about that family? What does that family need to help that kid do better as well? And then that impacts the community. So I think that is definitely a shift in trying to think about these kids who, they may have done something bad, but they are still kids and they do have capacity to change, and these kids are all coming back home. So how we can help everyone, not just that kid.
That is the focus. Our focus is always reunification with a parent or family member. It takes time. For a lot of the kids, it takes time. But that's in the back of our mind, that's our focus, and judges are required to see the child every 6 months to make sure that the whole team is working on that goal of reunification. All right, we have some questions. All right, so one question is about funding. So I think, Kelly, you are in the best position to answer this. Who funds the Credible Messenger program?
Oh, so there's a wide variety of funding sources. We have a federal grant that helps support part of the Running Rebels contract through the end of, September of this year. We have ARPA funding that we use, and then we have what's called Youth AIDS. Youth AIDS is our primary funding source in youth justice. It's funneled through the Department of Children and Families. There's a whole funding, how they come up with how much each county gets is determined by number of arrests, number of kids incarcerated, et cetera. It's a very outdated funding model, I'll say that. So we get an allocation from the state every year that funds the majority of the work that we do in CYFS. I also want to highlight grants run out, ARPA's running out, so we need to come up with looking at other opportunities to help fund this important work.
And when you talk about reporting data, are you talking about reporting data to the granting agencies?
Yep, we have to report, for ARPA, we have to do monthly, quarterly reports for ARPA, grants is quarterly, always having to show that impact. And, we have performance measures, outcomes that we have to work towards and report out on. So I know, that's not always the fun part of the work, but it is important to continue to get the resources to fund.
And the next question is somewhat related to this. Somebody asked about statistics on the percentage of youth who re-offend post-programming. So what we would call that in the system recidivism. I would love an answer to that question, but I would also like to ask you, is recidivism the only measure of success, and are there other measures of success that you think the community should be looking at?
Wait. Oh, I don't know. I'll answer first. Recidivism is only one measure. The justice system always talks about recidivism. Everyone wants to know recidivism, but that is not a great measure of success. It is one measure we should look at, but that doesn't take into account all the other things that impact that. So recidivism, number one, is measured differently depending who you ask. You could ask about recidivism in one program or one county, in another, and you'll get the way they measure it is completely different. It doesn't take into account other things like Other things we like to measure is desistance. And desistance is you less severe, you're engaging in less severe delinquent acts and less often, and then you eventually grow out of it. Most of the kids that we work with grow out of these behaviors. It's just it's a small number that continue, but that's what you hear about often in the community, but majority of kids do not. We also would like to look at like housing, economic stability, education, employment, connection to an adult, a positive adult. Like all these things are different things we can measure beyond just recidivism.
Thank you.
I would add to that. Yeah, for us, there's so many when we think about what we want to see most for our young people. And I shared with Mario becoming a great father. Young people who are able to look at their past and the mistakes that they made, and instead of looking at it with shame, be able to say, you know what, I now want to help other people to not get into that. And I'm okay with sharing my story. So just seeing growth as a person, being able to reflect, being able to set goals and meet goals, going on to school or not going on to school. There's so many different ways to measure success. And that's one thing that I hope people look at. It's more than what they did. Looking at who they become and who they are is amazing to me.
And recidivism will happen without transformation. And I say that because if you have a 21-year-old that went to prison and he got locked up for 10 years, and he got out when he was 30, he's still a 21-year-old when he went to prison. All that happened was he went to prison and was transformed into prison style, but when he come back home, he didn't live his 20s. And that's, I remember living my 20s, I had a ball. So just remember, he forgot about them 20s, and now he's trying to catch up and have to remember that he has to transform and forget about them 20s, but most people don't want to forget about them 20s because that was the most important time in their lives.
Thank you. So there is a question here about the Lincoln Hills facility and the Juvenile Detention Center, and the question is, how do these facilities benefit youth? So I will talk a little bit about both the detention center and Lincoln Hills. So we use the detention center sometimes as a very short-term temporary holding place until we can find the child a safe placement, or we use it as part of our Milwaukee County accountability program. That program is going to change for reasons that soon, for reasons that are technical and I won't get into, but the Milwaukee County Accountability Program is a dispositional placement. In other words, it's something that a youth can be sentenced to at the end of their case. That program requires them to spend 180 days in the juvenile detention facility. At that facility, they can't go AWOL. They cannot run away. It's a locked facility, and they receive dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, every single day, every single weekday. They receive an educational program from the Wauwatosa School District. They have various providers who come into the detention center to do programming. And that DBT piece is incredibly important. After 6 months, they transition out of the detention center. That whole time, not only did they have a human service worker, but they also had a Running Rebels advocate who met with them in the detention center almost on a daily basis. That Running Rebels advocate stays with them outside of the detention center, monitors them on a GPS ankle bracelet, knows where they are, can call them and say, hey, you're not where you're supposed to be. I'm coming to pick you up. Hey, you're spending too much time with your friends. We're going to take you to job interviews. And they do all of these things for those kids. So I think that can be a benefit. Now, on the flip side, I think there are people who believe that there are ways to make communities feel safe without youth prisons or detention centers. I don't know if anyone at this table shares that view, but do any of you have thoughts on what that might look like? Is there a path forward without detention centers?
we have been doing a process in Bell Phillips where we did, it's community building circles, and we go in for 3 days with young people. And 3 days is a long time to be locked in there with young people. And in almost every session that we did, there was at least one person, one of the young people, who admitted that had it not been for me getting put in here, I wasn't going to change. So that separation from the community has to happen. I don't know if it has to happen in that way or what an alternative setting could be, but taking them out of that situation and giving them something different, giving them an intervention that is needed at that time from their mouths is something that has saved their lives. So it doesn't answer the question of what this beautiful alternative is, but taking them out of the community in a way that teaches them, and like Travis said, not to where they come out and they're just in this different version of themselves that hasn't been able to transform and is going to be difficult to transition back to the community, but one that has more skills. Now they have the ability to talk about things, to process their emotions, to handle difficult situations. So that's what a perfect world looks like.
And one of the things that we're working on as an organization is, I'm the vice president for a national organization. So we look into like transship people to another entity. Like I got places in Georgia and Texas and Florida. If we can, we're working on this. This is a whole system though. This is a system that needs the red tape to remove. But if I could take someone that come through our system and just need to be out of Milwaukee, period, I would love to send them to Georgia to work on a 6-month project so that they can be out of their environment altogether, so they can learn another environment, because sometimes you just got to get out of Milwaukee. And if you can get out of here and understand how other cities thrive, then you can come back and help. It makes it a lot easier. That's what made it a lot easier for me, because I traveled so much. When I got out of Milwaukee, I'm born and raised in Milwaukee, I stopped thinking like Milwaukee, because I got to see other things. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but when you get to see other things, and I tell you a funny story. I go to Atlanta, right? I don't know who finna rob me. I go to the gas station and I don't know who's robbing me. So I gotta look around, because it's different from Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, I know everything. In Atlanta, I don't know anything. So.
Well, one of the hardest parts of being a judge is being mindful of time. And it is almost 1:15, so I think we do have to wrap up. This was amazing. Thank you so much to the panelists for being here. And I'll turn it over to Carla.
Put my readers on. Wow, thank you. To our esteemed panelists, we just owe you so much gratitude for taking time out of your really busy schedules and the important work that you're doing in this community. And I was just talking to someone who was sitting next to me. We could be here all day and then some, but we are in the, for respect of everyone's time, what a captivating discussion. Together, we at Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee are 422 members strong and growing, united in our mission to make a lasting impact in our community and to address the challenges facing the greater Milwaukee area. None of this would be possible without our generous sponsors. Look at all that. It wouldn't be possible without our sponsors, so thank you. Their generosity allows us to continue offering impactful programs like today's. I invite you to mark your calendars for June 4th, when we will gather for our 10th annual award celebration and grant 4 $100,000 impactful grants and one $22,000 merit award, bringing our total giving to over $3.6 million since our founding. Please join us and bring your friends for what is sure to be an inspiring evening. I want to thank all of you for attending today, for your involvement with Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee and its mission. I want to express our heartfelt and sincere appreciation to Suzanne McCoy, Programming Chair, and Betsy Yost, Events Director. And don't forget to fill these out. You can be part of that exciting team. And also special thanks to the Wisconsin Club staff. You're amazing as always. And to Studio Gear, again, always by our side. Thank you so much for making today's event seamless and successful. I also want to remind everyone you can find this recording on our YouTube page and eventually on our website, and make sure you share with your friends and relatives and neighbors the important information that was shared today. And again, thank you to our panelists and to all of you.